In this video, I'm going to be working Algebra 2 Quiz 10.2. So this is where we're starting in on graphing functions like 1 over x and I guess other related functions. So first one is find the domain of f. We're just going to be kind of keeping on working with these four functions throughout the quiz. So the domain of f is going to be we take the denominator of f and we make sure it's not equal to 0. Okay, so that's going to be x minus 3 is not equal to 0. So it's just going to be x is not equal to 3. I could add 3 to both sides of that non-equation. See, it's going to be, all right, the range of g. Right, g we have to think about it a little more holistically. The range is all the possible y values, the possible outputs. The only thing that's impossible here is for that 1 over x minus 5 to equal 0. That's not going to be possible. The only way we can get a fraction to equal 0 is if the numerator is 0 and the denominator is non-zero. So what I can't get from g of x is 4 plus 0 means y can't equal 4. Find the equation of any vertical asymptote to the graph of h. Okay, well, a vertical asymptote will be a place where we are forced to divide by 0, so it's a place where the function doesn't exist, and we get this kind of like infinite discontinuity in our graph. Okay, so that's going to be whatever x causes me to divide by 0, that's going to be x equals -1. And because it's a vertical line, it's going to have an equation, and it's going to be vertical x equals. Okay, if I go here and think about all the points that have x coordinate -1, that's a vertical line. So that's why I've got an equation like that. And then an equation of any horizontal asymptote to the graph of k. Really what a horizontal asymptote is what's happening to the value of y as x gets really big in one direction or another. So as x gets big, like 100, 1,000, 10,000, a million, a billion, 1 over x plus 4 is getting really small. Like really as small as you wanted it to be. So we can get as close to 2 plus 0 as we want, we just can't actually equal that. And so that's why we're going to see like y equals 2 as our horizontal asymptote for k. And just to remind you why it's like a y equals type equation, if we thought about, okay, we're on the y-axis, y equaled 2, and we thought about all the points that had y coordinate 2, that would form a horizontal line. All right, number 5 is sketch the graph of y equals f of x. So, all right, I'm going to have a vertical asymptote at x equals 3. Okay, so I might just start with that. Okay, the horizontal asymptote is going to be y equals 0 because I'm not really adding anything on the outside. Okay, so let's graph it like this and say, all right, well, this is a -1 over x type graph, and we know that's going to occupy the lower right and the upper left corners of our graph. That is somehow much better. Let me see if I can do that once more. Make it slightly nicer sketch. It'll have to do. All right, so if x equals 3 is over here, the y-axis is going to be to the left of the vertical asymptote. And I'll have y here and x there, and that's a perfectly good sketch. Okay. Find the x-intercept on the graph of g. Well, an x-intercept is where y is equal to 0, and y on g is equal to 4 plus 1 over x plus 5. X minus 5. So that's going to equal 0. And then I'm going to, subtract 4 from both sides. Multiply both sides by x minus 5. So 1 will equal -4 times x minus 5. Distribute. Subtract 20. So 1 minus 20, that'd be -19 equals -4x. Could divide by 4, and x is 19 over 4. Find the y-intercept on the graph of h, so 6 minus 1 over x plus 1. Sure, 6 minus 1 over x plus 1, great. So the y-intercept, that's where x equals 0, so I'm going to plug in x equals 0 into h, and I'll get 6 minus 1 over 0 plus 1. This is going to be 6 minus 1, that's just going to be 5. And sketch the graph of y equals k of x. All right, so 2 plus 1 over x plus 4. Right, so we're going to have a vertical asymptote at x equals -4, because that would cause division by 0. Horizontal asymptote is y equals 2, for the reasons we've already discussed here. And so, when I'm making these sketches, I kind of like to start with the asymptotes. It doesn't really make them any better of graphs, doesn't seem like, but it will keep them from being like really off stuck into one corner of your sketch. So that's going to be y equals 2. This would be x equals negative 4. And this is a regular positive 1 over x graph because I'm seeing that plus and then the 1 over x plus 4. So I'm going to just sketch like that. Looks pretty good, I guess. I'll have to do. And something below y equals 2, y equals 0, that'll be the x-axis. And x equals negative 4, that's going to be to the left of the y-axis. Let me put that a ways over here. And that would be my sketch. Yeah, it looks believable. Alright, that's Form A. Let's move on to Form B. Okay, first, for the domain of the function, we're going to grab that denominator and make sure that's not equal to 0 for domain. Okay, so x plus 5 is going to be not equal to 0. Solve that and see that, okay, that's going to be where x is not equal to negative 5. The range of g, I'm thinking about what can y equal, so it's going to be 3 plus some number. And that number, this fraction, this can never equal 0. So y can't equal 3 plus 0, and I say y can't equal 3. For h of x, we're looking for an equation of any vertical asymptote for number 3. And so I'm thinking what x would cause me to divide by 0 here. That would be x equals negative 6. And it's got to be x equals because it's a vertical line, a vertical asymptote is a vertical line, and vertical line has an equation x equals some number. The equation of a horizontal asymptote to the graph of k, as x gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the 1 over x minus 1 gets closer and closer to 0. So I'm getting closer to 4 plus 0. While not equaling it, I'm getting very close, and that's the idea of the asymptote. So y equals 4 will be the horizontal asymptote to that graph. Now, number 5, we're going to sketch the graph of y equals f of x. So f is going to have a vertical asymptote at x equals negative 5, because that would cause division by 0 there. And so maybe I'll just plot that in here. Horizontal asymptote is going to be y equals 0, because I've got nothing added on the outside, so it'll just be x-axis. But this is a negative 4 over x plus 5, so like a negative 1 over x type graph. And if you want to make it farther away from the axes, or the asymptotes because of it being a negative 4 instead of a negative 1, you can totally do that. I'm just going to try this one more time. I haven't been making the best sketches today. Okay, that'll have to do. X equals negative 5 will be to the left of the y-axis. I'm just going to put the y-axis over here, and that'll be a good sketch for us. Okay. X-intercept on the graph of g. Okay, and x-intercept is where y is equal to 0. And for g of x, y equals 3 plus 1 over x plus 2. X minus 2. So I'm going to solve this. I'm going to say, all right, maybe subtract 3 from both sides. And multiply both sides by x minus 2. So 1 will equal negative 3 times x minus 2. And 1 equals negative 3x plus 6. I'll subtract the 6. Maybe divide by negative 3, and I'll get negative 5 divided by negative 3. That's 5/3. So x equals 5/3. The y-intercept on the graph of h, that'll just be the value of h when x equals 0, so 1 minus 1 over x plus 6. Check that. Yep. Okay. So y-intercept, that's where x equals 0, so we plug in 0 into h, and wherever we see x in the formula for h, we replace with a 0. Okay, so that's 1 minus 1/6, that'll be 5/6. Then sketching the graph of y equals k of x, so that's going to be 4 plus 1 over x minus 1. So this thing's going to have a vertical asymptote at x equals 1, because x equals 1 would cause division by 0. A horizontal asymptote y equals 4. So I'm going to sketch those in. And this is otherwise it's a positive 1 over x graph, so I'm just going to live with it, be happy. Could be a lot worse. Yeah, that would end up being good. Okay, so x equals 1, that's just barely to the right of the y-axis. And y equals 4, that's a little bit more above the x-axis. Now, this is not something that I would... Wait a second, there's something off about this graph. No, I was just thinking about it wrong. But the y-intercept of this thing, that will help me know where to place my x-axis. I think I'm going to move this y-axis a little bit off to the side. A little bit better to navigate. Yeah, that'll be way better. All right. The y-intercept is k of 0 is going to be equal to 4 plus 1 over 0 minus 1. Okay, so that's 3. So I know the y-intercept, which I just filled in with that dark circle. I'm going to need that to be positive, so it needs to be above the x-axis. I need the x-axis to be below the y-intercept. Just like, most accurate sketch I can. But that's all I can do. That's a good sketch. That's going to be all for this video, all for this quiz. Thanks for watching.